Section 1. The Making of a Kingpin, Early Life and Ambitions. Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria, the man who would become synonymous with cocaine and terror, started life in humble circumstances. Born in 1949 in Rio Negro, Colombia, Escobar's early years were marked by the realities of poverty. Growing up in a modest neighborhood in Medellin, he witnessed the stark inequalities and limited opportunities that plagued his community. This experience fueled a burning ambition within him, a desire to escape poverty and achieve a life of wealth and power. From a young age, Escobar displayed a cunning and entrepreneurial spirit, often engaging in petty crime and hustling on the streets of Medellin. He was known for his charisma and street smarts, quickly learning to navigate the city's underbelly. His early ventures involved stealing tombstones, selling contraband cigarettes, and even dabbling in car theft. These acts hinted at the ruthlessness and ambition that would come to define his later years. Driven by an insatiable hunger for wealth and influence, Escobar saw a lucrative opportunity in the burgeoning drug trade. During the 1970s, cocaine consumption was on the rise in the United States, and Colombia was emerging as a key player in its production and distribution. Recognizing the immense profit potential, Escobar began his foray into the cocaine business, initially as a low-level smuggler transporting small quantities of the drug. This marked the beginning of his ascent into the dangerous world of drug cartels, setting the stage for his transformation from a petty criminal into a global drug lord. Section 2. Cocaine, Cash, and Cartels. Escobar's Rise to Power. Escobar's ruthless ambition and shrewd business acumen propelled him through the ranks of the Medellin cartel. He quickly grasped the intricacies of the cocaine trade, establishing clandestine labs, smuggling routes, and a vast network of loyal associates. His ability to bribe officials, intimidate rivals, and orchestrate complex operations solidified his position as a dominant force in the Colombian underworld. With a relentless pursuit of wealth and control, Escobar consolidated his power by forming alliances with other traffickers, forming the notorious Medellin cartel. This powerful syndicate controlled the production and distribution of a staggering 80% of the cocaine entering the United States. Vast sums of money flowed into Escobar's coffers, transforming him into one of the wealthiest individuals on the planet. His wealth translated into immense power, allowing him to exert influence over politicians, law enforcement, and entire communities. He used his fortune to amass an arsenal of weapons, build a private army, and cultivate a public image as a benefactor to the poor. This carefully crafted persona masked the brutal reality of his operations, a reign of terror built on violence and intimidation. Section 3. Reign of Terror, Violence, Corruption, and the Price of Power. Escobar's empire was built on a foundation of fear and violence. He ruled with an iron fist, eliminating rivals, silencing critics, and instilling terror in anyone who dared to oppose him. His sicarios, or hitmen, carried out countless assassinations, bombings, and kidnappings, leaving a trail of blood across Colombia. The Colombian government, crippled by corruption and intimidation, struggled to contain Escobar's reign of terror. Judges, politicians, and journalists who dared to challenge him were often met with swift and brutal retribution. The assassination of Justice Minister Rodrigo Lara Bonilla in 1984 sent shockwaves through the country, highlighting the extent of Escobar's power and the impunity with which he operated. Escobar's reign of terror reached its peak during the late 1980s and early 1990s. He waged a bloody war against the Colombian state, declaring plata o plomo, silver or lead, offering officials the choice of accepting bribes or facing deadly consequences. This campaign of violence plunged Colombia into a period of unprecedented turmoil, leaving countless innocent lives caught in the crossfire. Section 4. A Life on the Run, The Walls Close In. As Escobar's notoriety grew, so did the pressure from Colombian and U.S. authorities. He became a prime target of law enforcement agencies who sought to dismantle his empire and bring him to justice. In 1991, facing mounting pressure and the threat of extradition to the United States, Escobar negotiated a controversial surrender agreement with the Colombian government. He agreed to serve a 5-year sentence in his own luxurious prison, La Catedral, a facility built to his specifications and equipped with lavish amenities. However, Escobar's time in prison was more akin to a self-imposed exile. He continued to run his criminal enterprise from within La Catedral, conducting business, hosting parties, and even ordering the execution of associates who had displeased him. This blatant disregard for the law outraged the Colombian and U.S. governments, leading to renewed efforts to capture him. In 1992, facing a raid by Colombian authorities, Escobar escaped from La Catedral, disappearing into the sprawling city of Medellin. The hunt for the world's most notorious drug lord intensified, with Colombian and U.S. forces joining forces to track him down. Section 5. Escobar's demise, the end of an era. The final chapter of Escobar's life was marked by a desperate struggle for survival. He evaded capture for over a year, relying on his network of loyalists and his intimate knowledge of Medellin's underbelly. However, the relentless pursuit by the Search Bloc, a specialized Colombian task force trained by U.S. Delta Force operatives, gradually closed in on him. Isolated, increasingly paranoid, and separated from his family, Escobar's world crumbled around him. The once seemingly invincible drug lord was now a fugitive, constantly on the move, haunted by the prospect of capture or death. His empire, built on violence and fear, was crumbling under the weight of its own excesses. On December 2, 1993, Escobar's reign of terror came to an abrupt end. He was cornered by the Search Bloc in a middle-class neighborhood in Medellin and killed in a rooftop shootout. The image of his lifeless body, sprawled on a rooftop, became a symbol of the ultimate failure of his criminal enterprise. His death marked the end of an era, but the legacy of his actions continued to cast a long shadow over Colombia. Section 6. The Shadow of Escobar, Legacy and Impact. Pablo Escobar's life and death left an indelible mark on Colombia and the world. He rose from humble beginnings to become one of the most powerful and notorious criminals in history, amassing wealth and influence through a reign of terror that claimed countless lives. His legacy is a complex and controversial one, a cautionary tale about the corrosive effects of greed, violence, and the allure of power. Escobar's drug empire fueled a global cocaine epidemic, leaving a trail of addiction, violence, and social decay in its wake. The scars of his reign of terror are still visible in Colombia, a country grappling with the long-term consequences of his actions. The corruption he fostered, the institutions he weakened, and the culture of violence he perpetuated continue to challenge Colombia's efforts to build a more just and peaceful society. Despite his notoriety, Escobar remains a polarizing figure in Colombia. Some remember him as a ruthless criminal who brought untold suffering to their nation. Others, particularly in the impoverished communities he courted with his philanthropy, view him as a folk hero, a symbol of rebellion against inequality and government neglect. The enduring fascination with Escobar's life and crimes underscores the complex and enduring legacy of a man who, for a time, held a nation hostage to his ambition and ruthlessness.